This simple equation sums up the result of photosynthesis, its reactants and products. However, the processes that make photosynthesis possible are not very simple. Photosynthesis uses the molecule NADP to store energy and converts it to another molecule, NADPH, to release energy, just like ATP stores energy and is converted to ADP to release energy. NADP+ also looks like ATP in that it has a phosphate group, 2 adenine nucleotides, and a sugar. The reduced form of NADP+ is NADPH. Photosynthesis also depends on chlorophyll, a molecule that absorbs red and violet blue light and uses it to energize electrons to a higher energy level. Chlorophyll absorbs some of the energy of visible light. Plants have 2 main types of chlorophyll molecules, A and B. Together, these 2 types of chlorophyll absorb mostly red and blue wavelengths of visible light. Neither type absorbs much green light, so it bounces off them. As a result, the green color of plants comes from the reflection of light's green wavelengths by chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is housed in thylakoids, membrane-bound structures within the chloroplasts of photosynthetic cells. Chloroplasts are organelles in plant cells and are about 5 to 10 micrometers long. That's 0.000005 to 0.000010 meters. Each plant cell has from 1 to 100 chloroplasts. Light-dependent reactions convert solar energy into high-energy molecules ATP and NADPH. The Calvin cycle, which is light-independent, creates glucose. Light-dependent reactions occur in membrane-bound structures called thylakoids. The membrane separates the inside, or lumen, from the outside, or stroma, of an enclosed volume. The inside is called the lumen, the outside is called the stroma. Light-dependent reactions use light energy and water to form ATP, NADPH, and oxygen. NADPH is formed by adding a proton to NADP, storing energy in NADPH. The process requires 2 photosystems, each of which is a collection of proteins that absorb light and transform that energy into energetic electrons. Photosystem 2 occurs before photosystem 1 because it was discovered first. Here is the net reaction after both photosystems operate. Photosystem 2 is the first stage of photosynthesis. Light energy from the sun is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecules in the chloroplast, energizing electrons. The energy splits a water molecule that releases oxygen to the atmosphere. Light energy splits a water molecule and energizes electrons. The net result of the reaction is 1/2 O2 plus 2H plus ATP. This reaction yields the oxygen that we breathe. Chlorophyll absorbs energy from sunlight, energizing electrons and splitting a water molecule. The oxygen is emitted to the atmosphere. The energized electrons move through the thylakoid membrane, the electron transport chain, transferring their energy to membrane proteins called proton pumps. Proton pumps actively transport protons against their concentration gradient from the stroma into the lumen. There are now more protons in the lumen than in the stroma, resulting in a net positive charge in the lumen and a net negative charge in the stroma. The lumen protons are attracted to the stroma, but the membrane won't allow them to move back. ATP synthase provides a channel back to the stroma, and the protons move through it. It's a facilitated diffusion. The final movement of the protons uses their electric potential energy to add a phosphate group to an ADP, creating ATP. Electrical energy is converted to chemical energy. Click here for a video of ATP synthase. At this point, the electron has lost most of the energy it had originally acquired at photosystem 2. In order to carry out the rest of photosynthesis, the electron needs to recharge. The electron reaches a second chlorophyll molecule located in a protein complex called photosystem 1. There, chlorophyll absorbs more light energy and re-energizes the electron. Re-energized electrons combine with NADP+ to form NADPH. Overall, the reactions in photosystem 1 transform light energy into chemical energy, NADPH. The net result of the reaction is 1 NADPH plus 1 H+. The electrons from photosystem 2 that powered up ATP synthesis as they passed down the electron transport chain are re-energized by light. The re-energized electrons are used by the enzyme NADP reductase to create NADPH from NADP+. The energy is now in NADPH. Photosystem 1 passes ATP and NADPH to the Calvin cycle, also known as the light-independent or dark reaction. Some of the sun's energy that was absorbed by the chloroplast has been stored in those two molecules. The Calvin cycle can occur in light or dark. Thus, dark reaction is not an accurate name, but it is traditional. The cycle takes place in the stroma. The Calvin cycle uses the energy stored in ATP and NADPH to convert CO2 into glucose in a multi-step process. In 3 turns of the cycle, only one CO2 molecule enters the cycle at a time. The cycle uses 3 CO2, 9 ATP, and 6 NADPH, and makes a 3-carbon sugar. 2 3-carbon sugars are put together to form glucose. The Calvin cycle is also called carbon fixing. Carbon, a gas in the atmosphere, in the form of CO2, enters photosynthesis in the Calvin cycle. It is turned into a solid as glucose. When glucose is used in cellular respiration, the next topic, that carbon is released back into the atmosphere. This process of fixing and releasing carbon is called the carbon cycle. Carbon is not being created or destroyed, but is being cycled through the environment. Photosynthesis is complete. Light energy combined with carbon dioxide and water formed glucose and oxygen. Much, but not all of the sun's energy has been transformed and stored as chemical energy in glucose. The reaction will run in the opposite direction within living organisms, including the plants that made the glucose, to extract the energy in glucose to run their life processes. We will learn how living things extract energy from glucose in the next section, cellular respiration.